Good night, everyone. Close your eyes, let everything else go, and just focus on my voice. Because tonight's story won't come in your sleep, it'll come in your dreams. So as you drift off, get ready for another terrifying journey. It was October 31st, 2003, Halloween night, when 16-year-old Megan Holloway vanished without a trace, near a place the locals called Black Hollow, a dense stretch of forest just outside the sleepy town of Dry Creek, Pennsylvania. The last time anyone saw her was at 9:17 p.m., walking down Briar Road in a red hoodie, earbuds in, completely unaware that she was heading toward a place avoided by even the bravest hunters. The forest had always been wrong. Animals refused to enter it, compasses spun out of control, and even cell service cut off a mile before the tree line. The townspeople told stories in hushed tones about the hollow, about voices calling your name from the trees, about shadows that moved like liquid, and how no bird ever sang within it. For years after Megan's disappearance, her parents left a porch light on every night, hoping, but Megan never came home. Then in 2011, on the same night and hour of her vanishing, something strange happened. Her phone, disconnected for years, suddenly pinged a tower 2 miles from the edge of the forest. A search party entered the woods at dawn. 5 people went in. Only 2 came out, babbling incoherently about mirrors in the trees, and a woman with no eyes whispering backwards. They were never the same. In the following weeks, more signs emerged. Fog that clung unnaturally low around the town, sudden power outages at exactly 9:17 p.m., and dreams shared by dozens of residents, all seeing the same image: Megan, pale and soaking wet, standing in the woods with her head tilted, smiling too wide. By 2015, Dry Creek was all but abandoned, but the forest only grew darker, thicker, alive. It swallowed campers, hikers, and thrill-seeking ghost hunters, always around Halloween. In 2020, a popular YouTuber, Daniel Cross, live-streamed his investigation of Black Hollow. The feed lasted exactly 46 minutes. At 9:17 p.m., the screen went black, and only one sentence appeared in red across the stream: "She's not lost, she's waiting." Authorities never found Daniel, but the next night, his voice was captured on dozens of smart speakers across town, whispering, "Come see." And now, every year on October 31st, if you stand near the forest edge at exactly 9:17 p.m., the wind dies completely, the temperature drops, and you'll hear the faint sound of footsteps, not coming toward you, but circling you. Locals say Megan's not the only one in there anymore. She's built something, a place stitched from silence and shadow, and once you hear your name from inside the hollow, you never leave. You just stop existing on the outside and become a whisper, part of the storm of lost souls, feeding the forest's hunger. So if you're ever near Dry Creek and you see fog gathering low on Halloween night, keep driving, and never, ever answer a voice calling from the trees, especially if it sounds like someone you love. It began quietly, as these things always do, on the evening of November 12, 2006, in the isolated mountain town of Ashridge Falls, tucked deep in the Appalachian wilderness. The locals had always been cautious after sunset. Children were brought in early. Porch lights flickered like nervous eyes, and by 9 p.m., every house was locked and dark, but no one ever talked about why. They didn't mention the disappearances, just called them bad luck or wanderings. In the past 20 years, 22 people had gone missing. No bodies, no trails, just gone. And the strangest part? Every single one vanished between 9 p.m. and 9:45 p.m., what the locals quietly referred to as * the vanishing hour. When journalist Marla Jensen arrived in town on November 8, 2006, she thought it would be the story that launched her career. She rented a small cabin on the edge of the forest and began her interviews. But no one wanted to talk. The sheriff avoided her. The librarian refused to show her archived papers. And the only person who said anything of value was a man named Reggie Moore, who lived alone on the edge of the river. He told her, "It don't take people, it invites them, whisper by whisper, and once you listen, it's already too late." Marla thought it was just mountain paranoia until she began hearing the whispers herself. It was subtle at first, wind maybe, but it grew clearer with each night. By November 12th, she recorded an audio file where the whisper said her full name. That night, at exactly 9:17 p.m., her camera feed froze mid-recording. A blur moved behind her. The clock on the wall spun wildly, and then, nothing. The next morning, her cabin was found empty, the door wide open, light still on. Her phone lay in the grass outside, playing a single-looped message. Step into the dark. We're waiting. Over the years, the pattern only deepened. Some say it's the forest. Some say it's something beneath the town. There's no crime, no clues, no struggle. Just one person gone, always after dark, always within 45 minutes. In 2021, a group of urban explorers tried to spend the night near the old watchtower in Ashridge Falls. They set up 5 cameras and went live on YouTube. At 9:27 p.m., viewers saw something horrifying. A figure crawling upside down along the ceiling of the watchtower. Eyes, glowing faint blue, mouth open wide in a silent scream. The stream cut. Only one member of the group made it back. He couldn't speak, and now lives in a care facility, drawing spirals on the walls and whispering the same phrase over and over. It doesn't take you, it calls you. It wants you to walk into the dark on your own. To this day, Ashridge Falls remains a ghost town. Authorities boarded it up in 2022, but thrill seekers still go there. Most never come back, and those who do, change. Their eyes don't focus right. They mumble in their sleep. One even disappeared months after returning, stepped outside at 9:17 p.m. and never came back in. So if you ever pass through a place where the locals shut their windows early, where people don't like to talk about the past, where the woods feel too quiet after dark, check the time, because once the vanishing hour begins, something begins to watch, and it might whisper your name next. In the quiet, fog-covered hills of Belcroft, an old town where the streets are narrow and the houses stand as crooked as forgotten memories, a chilling legend has lived for centuries. The town's only bell tower, perched on a small hill at the edge of town, is as much a part of the landscape as the fog that rolls in each evening. But its tolling has never been a comforting sound. They say it tolls for the dead, but only for those who are about to join the list. The legend began in 1786, during the early years of the town's founding, with a young woman named Eleanor Ward, who was both the most beloved and the most tragic figure in Belcroft's history. Eleanor had fallen in love with a man named Thomas Graves, a charming and well-respected man, but their love was forbidden. Thomas was a fisherman, and Eleanor, the daughter of the town's most prominent family. Her father, a wealthy and ruthless merchant, forbade their union, insisting Thomas was beneath her. One stormy evening in the dead of winter, when the snow lay thick on the ground, Eleanor defied her father. She ran to the lighthouse to meet Thomas, but her father, in a fit of rage, confronted her there. The storm was ferocious, and as Eleanor tried to flee with Thomas, a sudden gust of wind sent her plummeting into the icy sea below. Her body was never recovered, and the town assumed it was an accident until the bell rang. That night, the town's bell, which hadn't tolled for years, began to ring. One long, mournful chime that echoed through the valley. The townspeople believed it was an omen, a warning, and in the days that followed, the sightings began. Eleanor's ghost appeared to those who ventured near the cliff, her face twisted in grief and rage, her eyes wide and haunting, her pale figure floating like a wisp in the wind. And when she appeared, the bell would toll again. For over 200 years, the bell rang, always on the anniversary of her death. But it wasn't the tolling that was the worst of it. It was the people who disappeared. Those who heard the bell at night, trapped in the haze of the fog, never returned. Some claimed to hear Eleanor's voice calling their names from the bell tower. Others said they saw her figure standing by the water, waiting, but no one dared venture too close. Each year, the bell tolls for someone, and that person is never seen again. In 2014, a curious journalist named Lucas Reed arrived in Belcroft, intrigued by the legend. He wanted to uncover the truth behind the stories and capture the ghost on camera. At first, the townspeople were reluctant to speak to him, but Lucas pressed on, And eventually, an elderly man named Hiram took him aside and warned him, "The bell's toll is not an invitation, it's a warning. The spirit of Eleanor doesn't seek to be seen, she seeks to be heard, to remind us of the curse that began with her death." But Lucas didn't listen. He spent the night in the town, determined to document the haunting. At precisely midnight, when the fog was thickest and the streets empty, the bell tolled. A single, eerie note that seemed to hang in the air, longer than it should. Lucas, with his camera in hand, followed the sound up the hill toward the bell tower. There, standing at the top, he saw her, a pale figure, draped in what looked like seaweed and ice, her eyes hollow, staring into his soul. He raised the camera, but before he could snap the shot, the ground beneath him cracked open, and the fog swallowed him whole. The next morning, the town found only the camera on the ground, the lens cracked. The footage was played back later, showing Lucas walking toward the bell tower. But at the last second, his face contorted in fear. And then, the footage cut off. Every year since, the bell tolls, and every year, someone else disappears, just as the legend says. The town has grown quiet, its streets more empty than ever. Some say the bell is cursed, some say it calls the souls of the lost, and some even believe Eleanor's spirit has become stronger with each passing year, seeking vengeance for her untimely death. If you ever find yourself in Belcroft, late on the night of January 7th, when the fog rolls in thick and heavy, listen carefully, because if the bell tolls once more, it's not a promise, it's a warning. And if you hear it, you may very well be the next to disappear, forever. There's a place that doesn't show up on most maps, a town forgotten by time and shrouded in fear. Ashfield, a quiet, crumbling village nestled in the shadow of a dense forest, is a place most people avoid. It's not because the town is dangerous by traditional standards, but because the people who live there are afraid to speak, afraid to think, afraid to move after dark. And they'll tell you that it's just the way things have always been, that nothing happens, that everything is normal. But there's a reason they keep their voices low when the sun sets, and why, when newcomers show up, they look away, as if they've seen the ghost of their past. The year was 1987 when journalist Rachel Harris first arrived in Ashfield. She had heard stories of this strange village, stories of silence, whispers, and things people never wanted to say out loud. Intrigued by the mystery, she packed her bags and set off, determined to uncover the truth about the rumors that plagued the small town. The locals greeted her with kindness, but their smiles never reached their eyes. The children were never allowed outside after dusk. The shopkeepers always locked their doors before 7 p.m. And the one pub in the center of town, it closed up sharply at 9 p.m., with the sign quickly turned over to closed without so much as a glance back. But the most unsettling part? No one ever talked about the night. Rachel, being a seasoned journalist, wasn't one to let things slip by unnoticed. She had to know what was happening after dark. So, on the evening of April 14th, she did what no one in Ashfield dared do. She stayed out after sundown. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the last rays of light disappeared from the sky, the world around her seemed to hush. The sounds of the crickets, the wind rustling through the trees, everything faded into a heavy silence, thick, suffocating. She wandered down the dimly lit streets, trying to ignore the gnawing feeling that gripped her chest. She could feel eyes on her, eyes from the windows, eyes that seemed to follow her every movement. By 10 p.m., the only sound left was her own footsteps, echoing in the empty streets. That's when she heard it, a distant hum, so low at first she thought it was her imagination. But then it grew louder, a song, soft and haunting, like a lullaby carried by the wind. It was a sound that called to her, an eerie pull that made her feet move without her consent, as if the air itself was guiding her toward something. She couldn't resist. Rachel followed the hum, stepping cautiously toward the town's outskirts. The fog, which had been creeping in since sunset, thickened around her like a suffocating shroud. The song led her to the old church at the edge of town. The church, long abandoned, had been silent for decades. Its doors boarded shut, windows broken, and its once towering steeple now a shadow of its former self. But tonight, the church was different. Through the cracks in the boarded doors, a dim light flickered. And the song, oh, the song, grew louder. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest as she approached the door. Her hand reached for the handle, but just before she touched it, a voice from behind her whispered, "Don't." She spun around, startled. The voice belonged to an old woman, hunched and frail, her face hidden beneath the hood of a tattered cloak. Her eyes were wide with fear as she grabbed Rachel's arm. "You must leave," the old woman said, her voice trembling. "You've heard it now, haven't you? The song. It's the calling. It's the warning." Rachel was stunned. "The warning?" she repeated. "What is it? What's going on in this town?" The woman shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "We don't speak of it. No one speaks of it. Not allowed. Not to outsiders. You must leave now or you'll be next." Before Rachel could ask another question, the woman pulled her back and into the fog, hissing in terror. "The others will come. They'll hear the song too. And when they do, they'll become part of it. The song calls to us. And once we hear it, there's no turning back." But Rachel, fueled by her journalistic instinct, didn't leave. She pulled her arm free from the woman's grasp, ignoring her warnings. She had to see what was inside the church. She couldn't leave without answers. Rachel pushed open the creaking door. The air inside was thick, heavy, filled with a faint smell of decay. The light, now brighter, flickered in rhythm with the song, a soft, eerie melody that seemed to surround her, drawing her in. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she saw them, the townspeople, every single one of them, sitting in a circle on the floor, their faces expressionless, their eyes wide and glazed. They were all looking at her. One of them, the sheriff whose name Rachel had learned earlier, stood up and walked toward her slowly. His eyes were hollow, and his movement stiff like a marionette controlled by an unseen force. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice hollow, empty. "The song is only for those who have already heard it. You will join us now, forever." And then it hit her, the horror, the realization. The song wasn't just a lullaby. It was a call, a summoning of the souls of the town. The people weren't just waiting for something. They were waiting for her. Rachel turned to flee, but the door slammed shut behind her. The song swelled louder, and the townspeople stood in unison, their eyes locked on her as they began chanting, "You shouldn't have stayed after dark. Now you're one of us." As the chant echoed through the church, the door opened. But Rachel could no longer move. The song had taken root in her mind, the haunting melody overwhelming her senses. She felt her body become weightless, as if the fog was wrapping around her, pulling her into its cold embrace. And then, nothing. The next morning, Ashfield was quiet again. The streets, empty. The town was just as it had always been. But now, the whispers had started again. The whispers of Rachel Harris, the journalist who came to uncover the truth, and who now lives in the shadows, just like the others, forever listening to the song. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.